This is the Wally and Methot Show live. Now, here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Marc Methot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wally and Methot Show live, the Live at 5 edition, if you will. I'm Brent Wallace. He's Marc Methot. As always, lots for you coming up in the show today, so crack open a cold white water, if you will. And as always, the Wally and Methot Show live brought to you by sportsinteraction.com, Canada's online casino and sportsbook. Go to sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot and get in on all the action. And just a reminder, we'd love to have you sign up at Sports Interaction because they help keep us doing our little show. I'd call it a hobby, if you will. Meth, how are you today, sir?
Excellent, Wally. Thank you for asking. I've had a nasty headache since this morning, and I have this theory now, okay? Because I wasn't drinking last night. I had a normal day, not too stressed, I don't think. Probably a little stressed. I'm always stressed. But I wake up and I got this pounding headache, and it's like around 6 a.m. Everyone's still sleeping, so I think, I'm going to the kitchen, have some water. I pound like this big container full here, have a couple Tylenol. It doesn't go away. And I used to get these all the time when I played with the Sens too, when I was living here in Ottawa. I'm telling you, and there's hopefully somebody out there can correct me or maybe give us a little more insight. I think it's weather related. I'm thinking that there's something to do. It's always when it's overcast or kind of raining, and my body just responds in the worst possible way. So I'm fighting it today. I'm a warrior. I made it here, and I'm going to fight to live another day.
Here's what I think it is: climate change.
You want to get into that right now? Listen.
No. Go ahead.
No, don't worry. You haven't opened a can of anything. I'm not some climate denier. I made one comment because I'm not a fan of government in general, okay? I've got my issues. I have trust issues. And I was just questioning where the money was going when they raised these carbon taxes. That's all I brought up. I know there's a lot of problems that we need to address. We do as much as we can here. Aside from all the Pierres that I drink, I'm very conscious of what's going on. I just wanted to clear the air there, okay? But I thought that was you basically just unearthed it again, and now it's going to fire up my phone again.
No,
and I'm not very appreciative of that.
You liked a Tom Green tweet today.
Oh, well, Tom follows me. So Tom Green started following me like 2 months ago, and every once in a while I throw him a bone and just let him know like I'm appreciative, and I'll like some of his tweets. And I'm encouraging people to go look at that tweet posted. It was about another scientist. I think it was an Italian scientist. I could be wrong here. That they've uncovered some more information that kind of shoots down the current climate models, and that they're ever changing, and that it dates back even further. Anyway.
Maybe Tom can have an answer on fixing the Sens while he's at it, because there's lots of time out there. So right. I'm hoping your internet hangs out for the night. It seems to shut off around 3:00 in the afternoon, so we'll see what happens. By the way, Sens Topics, we'll call them today, brought to you by BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Inc., helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Go to BonnechereExcavating.com. And remember, guys, slow down in construction zones and also around Meth's house. He would appreciate that. Is that fair?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We only have one special guest for you today, and you know what? He's going to be here for the whole show. That's right. Craig. We're tired. He wants to come on the show. He's going to try and do this chat thing that we've got running as always, and he's going to try and talk and make sense in sentences better than both of us. So, Craig, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, what's happening?
There you are.
Yeah, let's talk a little shit today. I like this. It's dark outside. I feel like we can get a little more into it here. This is good stuff.
We
Meth,
will
I get
have
that too
a
with the
special.
You get that too?
Yeah. You know what used to kill me was going into Sensplex in the summer because it's so cold in there and it's so hot outside. It's like pressure changes, I think. That's what I get.
Yeah.
So you're getting me now. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, confirmed, I guess. Yeah, it stinks.
Don't forget, Meth-stradamus will be unveiled
I can't wait.
later today.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, so
that
stick
video,
around for that. Okay.
That video is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
Craig and Gatineau Greg out there that put it together. Like, because you guys have had this ready to go, I think, for the last little while, right? And I've been waiting and itching to post it. So, and for me, the best part is the weird, like, third eye mixed in with the, like, that ominous music in the background and the Slayer t-shirt. It's just a chef's kiss So good
it's a
job.
Good one. Yeah. We've had that one for a little bit here. We're just waiting for the right time to do it. And we figured, hey, here's a kind of evening live show where we can get a little weird. So let's get a little weird, I think. That's what I think. Yeah.
All right. So how do you want to start it off, Wally?
Maybe we're regretting this decision already, Craig. Behave yourself.
I like it.
Let's get into last night's game. We'll call it Sharknado I couldn't think of anything else. Sens lose 6-3, 2 empty net goals. They even had a lead at 3-2 at one point. Goal scorers, Norris, Tkachuk, Brown. Brady Tkachuk seemed cranky last night. He had 4 minors. Shabbat, 27-50 in ice time. He had 2 assists, of course, and we'll get to Tim Stützle in a sec. Overall, Meth, let's start with you and your thoughts of that game as a team continues to try and get its legs back under it from COVID.
Well, I want to start off by saying I was not awake at 10:30 last night, so I recorded it. And I watched it this morning when my kids went to school. It's too late. Like I can't do those late 10:30 games. Like I'll full disclosure, which is why I wasn't tweeting anything during the game. But I did watch it. Not only did I watch the whole game, but then I watched it over the highlights over and over again because I'm trying to break down these goals. And I don't want to get into too much detail because people can't really see what the hell I'm talking about. But like, for example, on the Nieto goal, just as an example where the team is at. Actually, before I even touch on that, they were in the game, right? Like they were leading at one point, and we'll get to Matt Murray in a little bit, but I thought for the most part, they looked pretty good and they have, everything stacked against them. They're still coming off the long little week and a half break. I thought they played with a lot of energy. The games are exciting. They're losing games, but they're exciting games, right? Like they're not getting shellacked or pumped out of the building. Like they're competitive. So that's good. But I'm going through tweets and I'm seeing what fans are saying, and I can sense the frustration building up now, right? Like some people are getting angry with the coach, some people are getting angry with the management group, and you're starting to see polls posted online now where who's to blame. I think there's a combination of a lot of things going on right now, but it always gets back to the same thing. And when I watched the game last night, or rather this morning, my takeaway is that there's just so much lack of depth in this group. Yep. And you talk about Brady Tkachuk getting frustrated, Wally, right? A lot of that is just think like he's out there, he's performing. That top line, they're a bunch of studs. They're playing very well. Their top 2 lines are looking great, but it's the lack of depth, the defensive depth, the goaltending inconsistencies. They're just shooting themselves in the foot any night. And we can get into the details in a little bit, but for me, they were in it. Those last 2 goals are open net goals, so that's not the 6-3 score isn't really indicative of the overall outcome. But man, there's some stuff they need to do, and I don't know what the answer is right now because you can't sell the farm. You're trying to build up a lineup that's competitive, but you also don't want to get rid of any of your big prospects because you're hoping that some of them are going to be coming in over the next couple of years. So I know I'm sounding like a windbag now. I can go on forever. I'll let you guys chime in here in a second. But yeah, ultimately, from my takeaway is they were competitive. They're just not able to close out games. They're playing with leads. We've seen it over the course of the season now and then they'll just either have a very poor second period or a very poor third period. And that's just puck management, playing with confidence and trusting your system. And I'm not seeing it right now.
Craig?
Yeah, so I dropped a poll in here and it's still going or whatever, but something kind of cool. 60% of people said they watched the entire game last night. That's so far. It's kind of
wow.
60% of the people stayed up to watch the games. That's kind of alarming.
I don't believe that. I don't believe it. There's anyway, good for them though if that is in fact a legitimate poll.
Yeah. If you're the last place team and 60% of the people are still staying up to watch these games, that's not bad. So, I think the good news is I don't think you've lost any of these fans yet. I think if anything, now they want to be part of the answers, right? Like, what are we doing to fix this thing? Because they're obviously invested. They come out to our show. They're watching games till 10:30 at night. I don't know if I ever told the story. I fell asleep tweeting a Sens Sharks game once. I don't know if I ever talked about that. I felt it was late in the third.
You have mentioned that.
Did I? Okay. All right. I was super sick and I had to tweet it. So anyways, those 10:30 games, I didn't make it through all of it last night. Ironically, I bailed on the third. So I woke up to a bit of a surprise, like some people, I'm sure. Yeah, it feels like we're just reliving last year. Like this is kind of what happened last year, where they just be in games, but they couldn't find a way to close the door. So was hoping maybe the young guys with another year under their belt would help. You'd hope maybe Matt Murray having the offseason to get healthy would help. But The decor looks depleted. There's a lack of kind of scoring in the offense. I mean, I know, listen, they're ravaged by injuries, right? You can't lose. I mean, before the season, I think Colin White and Shane Pinto, those guys were all penciled in to play down the middle, and now they're not there, right? Yeah. So I think, and we're going to get to Stützle in a minute, but I don't think you can lose that many guys, and especially with this team, and still expect kind of the results. So if anything, the takeaway from last night and the Colorado game is like the effort is there. You know, I mean, the guys are pulling in the same direction. You haven't lost anybody. It's not like it's going in Vancouver, right? Like these guys still want to win here, and it's still young, and there's still time. But it's at some point you're going to want to see them get some points out of these games. Like you can't. There's moral victories in the NHL, but they're not going to help you take the next step. I don't think so. They got to find a way to close the door late in these games, or at least maybe find a way to eke out and steal some points.
Yeah, and just to chime in really quickly, Wally, I don't mean to cut you off if you had something to say. Just to touch on how things are going. Like you watch that Nieto goal, the first goal by San Jose, and I know it's trivial. It's the first goal of the game. It's not a big deal, but to me that sums up a lot of what's happening. And it was a completely preventable goal where I think Chabot was caught up the ice doing his thing, which is very normal for an offensive defenseman. And then it turns into a 3-on-2 because all Chabot and the other two forwards get caught down low. There's a bit of a turnover. And it comes down 3-on-2 between Lassie Thompson and Tyler Ennis. So they're backing off. They're trying to play a 3-on-2. So you've got a really young player. I think Thompson's, 21. Ennis has no business playing D, but good for him for being back. Mm-hmm. Thompson decides to commit completely off to the far right winger on his side, takes himself out of the play, leaves Ennis on a 2-on-1, and then they get scored on. Like those are plays that just can't happen. So, you know, I could break down all these goals and I'm seeing stuff, and it's easy to nitpick goals against. You're always going to find an error somewhere, obviously, but preventable goals like that are the ones that are going to kill you. And that's sort of indicative of where the group is at right now. So that's preventable, you know, and the same thing goes for the game winner. I'm trying to find where the game winner was, where who was on the ice for that? Was it the Bonino goal? Who scored? No, it was the Meyer goal, the Timo Meyer goal, where you had Logan Couture's line out there playing against Parker Kelly, Gambrell, and Watson. So they get caught up against your fourth line. You know, like those are matchups. And I know on the road it's hard to get the matchups you want, but in the third period, like that's avoidable. So, you know, I look at that and I think, boy, like, you know, it's a personnel thing, I guess, to a degree, but you also have to manage your players properly too. Like they're like, you know, when you're on the road, it's a tight game like that. You got to be careful. So I don't like where the team is trending right now. And you mentioned it, Craig, where you say they started off pretty well, but right now it feels like you're repeating last year, where it's like, are we going over this all over again? We all talked about wanting to see the team progress, Wally? And it's just not happening right now.
So my concern is fan apathy. So now everybody's switched from the rebuild is over because that's what we got said, and now people's expectations are higher, to let's dig in for Shane Wright. And that's not what I want to see this franchise have to go through once again, is to continue. Let's just accept it and let's try to get the first overall pick. That makes for a really long.
Tank? Let's roll in the tank, Wally.
No, I've had enough of the tank.
Here, I'll ask you this.
Yeah. You're 17 games in and you want a tank.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm not advocating for the tank, okay? But I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, if you're a fan, we're all fans, and I'm thinking like, well, this group doesn't really stand a chance in hell to make the postseason. Why not just milk it milk the losses at this point and try to get the top pick?
I get it. I don't want to see it anymore. This franchise deserves better. The fan base deserves better, right? So they're at the same, and the people have already brought it up. After 17 games, they're the same record, 4-12-1. Now, there is some positive signs, if you want it. They're minuscule, if you will. Goals against is a little less. Save percentage is a little higher, but they're still at the bottom of the league, obviously. Drake Batherson has more points at 16 than Brady Tkachuk. Last year had 10 after 17 games. He was the leading scorer. There's a few things. Yeah. So trending, I don't know, but there is signs, and we've all seen this top six. We've seen this power play be able to move stuff. Like they can move the puck around. That power play is fun to watch, if nothing else. Right? They just there's just too many holes to fill right now, and I just don't like seeing that when they've had time to continue to build this thing. That's my concern on that. That's all.
Yeah.
So we'll move on because everybody wants to talk about Tim Stützle. So the center of attention, if you will. And now it seems like a good time to bring in Whitewater. Everybody should crack up. We should offer everybody a free beer for our show. Whitewater beer. Go to shopwhitewater.ca. Use the 15% off coupon as always. But that is going to be a limited time. So if you're hoping to stock up for Christmas, I suggest you start to think ahead now of getting your 15% off coupon at shopwhitewater.ca. Of course, brewed by friends for friends. We're all friends here. Tim Stützle moved to the middle of the ice for the first time at center. Now, we've all played in math. I know you're not a forward, but you've played hockey. You understand F1, F2, F3 when you're in the offensive zone. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about being a center. It does mean something in the defensive end. So what did you see from Tim Stützle's game last night in his 18:47 time on ice?
Yeah. Well, I know that you have to be careful with young players, right? And the big discussion here with Tim Stützle was, is he ready to play center? Because there's so much more involved when you're basically running the line in the middle, right? You're the guy that's the go-to player down low in the defensive zone. You're helping out or either that or you're the low guy that's going to receive the pass to make a nice breakout play. You have to you're a little more creative. There's a little more defensive responsibility. But I've also got this theory that if you're a great player, and there are good players and there are great players. If you're going to be a great player, which I think we could all agree on that Tim Stützle is in that category, giving them a little bit more responsibility can sometimes give them a jolt. And that applies to a lot of stuff you do in life, right? Like when I'm miserable around the house, it's usually because I'm bored out of my mind. But when I have a lot of stuff to do, I'm engaged, I'm into it. With Tim Stützle, I think that applies. I think that from what I saw, at least, when I look at a player that has that much skill, the first two things I'm going to look at is he really engaged and is he playing competitive? He did that. He had a lot of energy. Yep. He was moving the puck really well. They had some pretty clean outs. And of course, he's playing with Nick Paul, Connor Brown. I think that's the perfect line, at least to get him started with, to see what he can do, because defensively they're so responsible and they're veteran guys now. But I thought for the responsibility, he was looking really good. His analytics were really good, which surprised me. So I was pleasantly surprised to do that on the road, where DJ's have his matchups. He's got to adjust. He's got to trust that Timmy's going to do a good job when he does put him out there, despite who he's playing against. So I was pleasantly surprised. And this goes, I think, for the entire group and not just Tim Stützle. For the next couple games here, like you're talking about Anaheim right now, coming up next, followed by LA. Like these are some good teams. They're better than San Jose. So this is a good opportunity for this group to try to bounce back and have a good effort. I don't know that they're going to win any of those games. But if you're going to talk about Tim Stützle, for example, if he could display a little bit more of what he did and start playing with even more confidence, of course the goals need to come. I mean, quite frankly, when you're a top two line forward, you need to produce points. You need to score goals. That's your job. So yes, you have to be patient, but at the same time, at some point, you need to see production. I think he's on the right track. I thought he looked excellent last night. So I say ride him in the middle and see what he can do.
Yep. And you know what I like about it? It engages the fan base, right? People are excited to see what he can do in the middle of the ice.
Bingo.
So I'm all for playing him middle of the ice. I don't really care if he wins a faceoff or not. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to jump in and say, maybe that's what the season could be about, is like, let's answer some questions, right? Can Stützle take some steps at center? Can we find, like, who's going to grab the third line center role, right? Like, is it Tierney? Is it going to be Colin White? Is it obviously some of those we can't answer because of injuries, but is that maybe what the season's going to be kind of come down to? Is like, are we going to try and find, is Thompson the next Zub that can step into the lineup starting next year? Is that is that what the season's going to turn into? Is just more kind of maybe addressing those things?
The feel-good stories are great, but like Wally said, which is a really good point. It's like, at what point are the fans just sick of it, right? And I know there's a business side to this game, and you want to sell season tickets for next year, or you want to be able to keep bringing fans in until the end of the season. You have to string together some wins, right? You can't just keep losing and relying on these feel-good. Well, Timmy's playing in the middle. He looks great. Matt Murray had a really good game last night. He looks great now. You have to start playing. You have to start producing some points. So wait a second. On that note, just to take a quick pause, I wanted to bring in a special guest. I want to bring in a special guest, Wally, and it's somebody that you know. I wanted to grill them a little bit. Alex, can you bring her in?
We don't ever let you do the producing of this show.
So we've got Brent Wallace's beautiful wife, Lisa. Listen, Lisa, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit because Wally kind of threw you under the bus the other day. Okay.
Oh, I'm aware.
He mentioned that the steak that you had prepared for him wasn't excellent. It wasn't up to par or standard. Do you care to elaborate a little on that?
I will say his steak was cooked to perfection for probably 99.9% of the population. And, you know, I try to go out of my way knowing he likes his terribly cooked. So I put it on the barbecue earlier, and for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe there was just a cold spot on the barbecue that night, that as soon as he cut into it, I was like, oh.
So does he say to you in the moment, like, this is unacceptable, and throw his hands up, or is he a little more subtle about it?
He just cut into it and kind of looked and then looked up at me and was like,
no.
Oh.
Okay.
Like,
and I can imagine some comment like, "Oh, was the barbecue broken, or did you make a mistake?" And I was just kind of like, "Feel free to make your own."
Because I told him, I'm like, Wally, if it's undercooked a little bit, just throw it back on for a little bit, or let it sit in the oven or the pan. But like, he had to call you out the way he did. I thought it was very disrespectful.
Well, I'm kind of used to it, and I just go, well, if you really don't appreciate the effort and the time that went into making a really nice dinner, I can just step back and let him take over.
Okay, well, and that's fair, because I you know how I feel about Wally and his taste when it comes to meat, so I'm not even going to get into that anymore. What about some of the questionable sweaters that he wears when he comes on? Do you like lay out his clothes for him like a child, like before he comes on, or does he do it on his own?
No, I have no clue he wears. If anything, I took that lesson a long time ago, where I had bought him a tie that I thought was quite nice. And then we went to New Brunswick to visit his family, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to bring some clothes for my brother." And all of a sudden I see the brother pull out this tie. And I was like, "I gave you that. Like, you've never worn it." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't really like it." So I rarely will buy clothes for him now.
Awesome. Well, you have a lot
My
of
palms
patience.
are so sweaty right now.
Good. And you deserve that right now, Wally. So I'm going to make a suggestion. Wally, do you cook very often?
Ask Lisa.
Lisa, does Wally cook?
Wait.
Define often.
Yeah, that wasn't the right term.
More than once a week.
No.
Oh, it's too bad.
And it's funny. I will say this: when we were first together, and I would often work much later than Brent, and this was before kids, I would come home and supper was made, and he had actually found like great dessert recipes where he had discovered this chocolate souffle that was absolutely amazing. And I often remind him of these times, and I'm like, "What happened? Like, did you suddenly get memory loss and can't remember how to cook anymore?" And but I think at the same point, right, he got spoiled that I just made dinner every night, and so now it's kind of.
And
like,
in fairness,
hey.
you're Lisa. In fairness, because when I played with the Sens, you'd bake me some banana bread, banana loaf in the past. I know you're really good at baking, and I know that you're very good in the kitchen. So to your credit, I can understand Wally's reluctance to jump in once in a while. My only comment will be, Wally, you got to get in there at least once a week to do something.
Okay, can I at least get, when I do cook, it's pretty good.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Right.
I will say that. Yeah, he makes a great like a slow cooked chicken breast with pasta and rosé sauce and some sautéed vegetables that goes over very well.
Okay.
And great breakfast maker, makes a great omelet. So Brett, like if he even would just bring out breakfast on a regular basis, that'd be fantastic.
Right. Yeah. So it's not that he can't do it. It's that he's just flat out lazy. That's what you're saying?
I think it's partially right. Is that sometimes what I love is that I'll make something and we don't need to have this again anytime soon. Ooh. Or so then I just kind of go, well, fill your boots and you can make something. So then he's kind of forced into cooking because he's kind of pushed the limits a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like Wally needs like a large scotch right now or something just to kind of calm the nerves more. Hey, Wally?
Here's the question. How often, Mark and Craig, do you guys cook?
You don't want to know. I'm almost every meal Yeah, almost
every single
Oh,
meal.
for the love
day.
of God!
I make
I'm
all
not
my
even
kids'
kidding.
lunches for school. I make my wife's lunch for school. Dinners every night.
Yep.
Yeah, he doesn't want to hear
Yep.
that. I imagine
Yep.
he cleans it.
I
Right?
made
You
like
cook,
a
he
really
cleans? Is that how
cool.
it works?
I had veal. We had a veal parmesan the other night. Last night I made a nice beef stew. It took a couple hours to make that. Like I do it up. Dinner is like an event at our house every night, and I take pride in it.
So
Matt, I've been to your house.
having...
Wait 1 second. Hold on. I've been to your house for lunch, and you've eaten meat and stuff just out of the package and put it back in the fridge.
I don't eat lunch. I'm not a big lunch eater. I have a protein shake at lunch, but I have full breakfast. I kind of forage throughout the day, and then I have we have a full course meal. I see your attempt, and it's desperate right now, Wally.
Well, I don't know how your kids just run around all day waiting for you to cook them something. That's all I know.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
So when's the segment for
Oh,
Marc teaching Brent how to cook something special? Like my birthday is coming up, so maybe he needs a new recipe.
Or we can find a good catering group for Wally, and he can call somebody up. Right, Wally?
I just want this over. Yeah.
Okay. Lisa, I appreciate you coming on. I know it was uncomfortable for Wally mostly, but thank you for coming on. I know you got to pick up the kids here soon, so thank you.
I'm sure you got to get to work on dinner too, right?
Yeah,
I do.
Make sure.
I do actually.
Make sure you have something ready for Wally.
So good
okay.
tonight. It better be really good.
I'm gonna make sure.
Oh my God.
There's gonna be dinner for the kids and Brent can just warm up a plate.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
Burnt toast. I love burnt toast.
Ugh. Terrible.
No?
All right, here we go.
Burnt
All right,
toast.
Wally, thanks for being a good sport, pal.
Yeah, that was good. Burnt toast, though, I don't get.
I don't know how to get you back right now, but at some point, I will figure out some revenge.
Yeah.
It's a dish served cold or well done, one or the other. Yep.
Yeah. So what do we're moving on? So Stützle, good. Wally's meat, not good. Now we're on to Matt Murray, I'm assuming, right?
I'm reeling from this at the moment, so I'm just trying to get things back on track. By the way, we do have special guests today. I don't know where everybody's listening from, but out in the LA, while they're sitting around the pool, the broadcast team that's in the truck are watching our little show. So Sam Cicerello and the crew, we just wanted to.
I saw him in the chat because we started a minute late, and Sam was all upset. Yeah. This isn't broadcast, Sam. We can go whenever we like. We can go as late as we want. Sam.
Sam is a stickler for time.
Yeah. Shout out to Sam. Sam, bring me an Ethernet cable when you get back, because my connection in the evenings are awful.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going. Anyway, okay. All right. Moving on to Matt Murray. And of course, Matt Murray probably doesn't want this conversation to happen either. But it's brought to you by Gong Show. Yeah, go to gongshow.com. By the way, still get in on the Black Friday sale this week. 20% off the entire website, which includes all the Wally Methot gear. So sweatshirts, hats, T-shirts, all that stuff is on sale. 20% off. By the way, that kid right there is my son. Anyway,
handsome boy.
Handsome boy right there.
Yeah, look at that. It looks like he's in the witness protection program. Anyway, okay, so Matt Murray returns to the net, playing his first game since November the 9th. 3 games, the Sens have allowed 30 shots or less this season. They lead the league in shots against. There's not much good to say here. Matt Murray is 0-5 with a .326 goals against and an .890 save percentage. What do you do? Like, they've tried, right? Ever since the beginning of last season, they tried. They tried to blame Pierres, saying that was the answer. Let's bring in a new goalie coach and we'll fix Matt Murray. Is it over now, or do we just continue to plug away and see what happens?
A good example of where his game is at right now, just I guess on a consistent basis from game to game when he is playing, he makes really good saves. He plays the goaltending position pretty well. And then, for example, last night, that third Sharks goal, it was the last goal in the second period, that Nick Bonino goal where they were on the power play. San Jose rather was on the power play, and they do a little tic-tac-toe play. They go down low, and it's a one-touch pass to the slot guy. Zub is right there, but for players, that's very hard to defend because the puck's flying around really quickly through one touches, and it kind of trickles through his legs a little bit, and he loses sight of it, and it goes in. That's a backbreaker, right? Ottawa's got the 3-2 lead at that point. San Jose ties it up with a weak goal. You go into the third period, tie game. You need to stop it. You just have to make that save. There was another goal where I'm trying to remember which one it was, where was it Meyer coming down the left wing, or I forget who it was. And it was a clean shot, right? Goes short side shelf off the bar in the net. You could make an argument that he's playing a little deep into his net, but it was a great shot. But the point is, and I'll leave it at this, you just need him to make some saves. You need him to figure it out. Just win the game. Make those savable saves. And, tip the cap when they make a good shot, they score. But I didn't see that last night. And I feel like the group's at a point now where they just don't have the confidence in them. And when your group doesn't have confidence in your goaltender, that's a problem. And right now, you just got to ride Gus.
I'm going to bring up a couple of notes, and I'm going to come back to that particular point because I think it's important as a defenseman to talk about this. Worst save percentage the last 3 seasons, a minimum 45 games. Matt Murray is 4th worst at 46. And then it goes Brian Elliott, Devin Dubnyk, and Carter Hutton. His save percentage is 896. He's not had a season above 900 in the last 3 seasons. So we can see that, whether it's dwindling or whatever the system is, whatever, it's not good for Matt Murray. So when you're a player, and especially a defenseman, and your goaltending is struggling, what do you do? How do you approach that game when you see it's not the guy that maybe arguably is the number one guy like Gus who should be in there?
Well, I mean, if I'm struggling on defense, my leash gets shorter and shorter, and eventually I'm not playing, which has happened to me when I first got into the league. That's very normal. So when you stop doing your job properly, you shouldn't play. And I hate being hurt. God knows I know how difficult the goalie position is. I feel dirty when I'm critical of a goaltender because I mean this sincerely. It's very difficult, which is why goaltenders are so quirky. It's such a mental position, and there are a lot of things out of your control as a goaltender. But my only thing is, the news came out in the summer that he put on a bunch of weight and that this was the plan. He wanted to put when you're a veteran who's won a couple Stanley Cups and you're trying to reinvent the wheel by putting on weight, what does that say about where your game's at confidence wise and how much, tinkering you really need to do at this point in your career? I think that kind of was indicative of where his mindset was at and how much confidence he was lacking going into the year. So he was pretty good at camp, pretty good at the start of the season, but then just not winning the games that need to be won when he's playing. And that's, whether it's him or the group in front of him just not performing on those nights, I feel like that coincidental option is probably out the window at this point because it's happening very often. We're seeing a trend. So like I said earlier, start riding Gus, and you have Matt Murray as your backup for now, and that's really your only option.
It's interesting to point out. So if I'm going to save this because hold on, I got a question, but I feel like I need your orb, however that plays out. So if you didn't see this on Twitter earlier today, we have a new segment that we spent $1 million to build. So Alex,
Craig
Meth-stradamus, the intro, please. I don't. Okay, here's my first question, Meth-stradamus. By the way, if you haven't been following along, every Sens game we make a prediction on Sports Interaction. And so far on this season, in your games with the Ottawa Senators, you're 12-5. So I think that you've carried your weight so far this season. So Meth-stradamus, if you could, how many wins will Matt Murray have this season?
That one's a curveball. And I think this touches off what we were just saying. If Gus decides to play and play well and takes the crown here on that number one goaltending position, Matt Murray's on the back burner at this point. And I hate saying that, but it's just the reality of where the group is at right now, especially with the goaltending situation. So I mean, if I'm going to make any predictions with regards to the amount of wins he's going to get, I'm going to put Matt Murray at about 5 to 7. I got to leave a little bit of wiggle room. It's not very much, but at the rate they're winning games, the amount they're struggling, I mean, they're the underdog almost every game. I can't imagine Matt Murray's going to get many more than 5. 5's a good number.
I feel like your chin strap should be. It's like election night. I feel like your chin strap needs to be done up. Okay.
I can do that.
Let's move on then. Who will start more games the rest of the season? Murray, Anton Forsberg, or Philip Gustafsson?
Okay, well, that's an easy one. Obviously, Gus the Bus. Can I call him that? I don't know if I can call him that. I'm going to go with Gustafsson. I think he's displayed more consistency than anybody else. He hasn't laid any lemons yet, so I got to go with him. The group just seems to play very well in front of Gus right now. And when I see the group's confidence, to me, that's the biggest indicator. So we're going to go with Gus.
Okay, but it's easy to...
That's happening every time, by the way. After every prediction.
Yeah, no, I got it now. I should have come to rehearsal. It's easy to say that Gustafsson will play the most, but when your other goaltender is the highest paid at over $6 million, and I think he's top 10 in salaries, do you not think that Matt Murray is still going to lead this team in starts?
I would like him to, but I don't think you can.
Okay.
You've given him, you've already given him, that opportunity. Matt Murray's had ample opportunity here to play and take the wheel, right? And he hasn't done it. So if you're DJ Smith, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't go off moral victories. We're at a point now where you have to win games. Like 2 points is important. The fan base wants it. We need to see wins. And who's going to give you the best opportunity to win games right now? It's going to be Gustafsson.
I can't even look at you right now.
Hey, Wally, can I ask Matthew?
I can't wait. I cannot wait to take this off, by the way. I haven't worn this thing in like 2.5 years. It's just,
I got
a question.
Maybe it's, go ahead.
Okay, we have another question here. Is it Craig?
We're just sticking with the goalies here for a second. They got 3 goalies. Are they going to carry 3 goalies all year? Because I mean, they should be riding Gus the Bus. So what do we do with the goalies? Are they carrying 3? Is someone hitting the wire? What does Meth-stradamus see?
There's absolutely no chance that they're going to put Matt Murray on waivers. At least I don't think so. It doesn't make any sense. To me, I've always been a believer in having 3 goalies around. I don't know that it's optimal for the third guy. It gets very difficult for goalies in practices and stuff to get reps in and get shots against. But for now, that's a tough call because Murray's kind of injury prone. We don't know where his headspace is at, where his confidence is at. Forsberg's waiting in the weeds right now for an opportunity to get back in there. I think for now, with the uncertainty looming around the goaltending situation, you're probably going to see 3 of them hanging around until at least that deadline. And then maybe there might be a little bit more movement. But for now, again, these are just predictions. I can't imagine anybody moving around too much. Oh my God. Are we going to
okay. I knew it was coming. I knew it. I'm so proud of myself. Okay. Yep. Where do you see Lassie Thompson playing more the rest of the season? The NHL or the AHL?
So before before they announced that Josh Brown was going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, even then I still thought Thompson's here. I mean, at that point, we got to keep him around. He's looking great. He's playing 20 minutes a night with, Thomas Chabot right now at the very least, and he's moving the puck very well. He had a little mistake there on that one goal yesterday where he probably pinched up on the wall in the neutral zone when he shouldn't have, but that's easy to nitpick. And you're going to make mistakes, and that's a coachable moment. So I like where his game's at right now. And now that Brown is out for at least the next 4 to 6 weeks, I don't see Thompson going anywhere. You're trying to win these games. You're going to go with the best players available. At least I'd hope so. And for me, he's in your top 4. There's no question. So I'd like to see Lassie Thompson stick around. I'm a big fan of his. And I do think there's a lot of opportunity there for him to grow and get better, which we all know, of course, is the case on defense. I don't see him moving around. I could see him sticking around for the whole year.
I don't know. Okay, let's just. Which defenseman will score their first goal of the season first? Thomas Chabot, Victor Mete, or Lassie Thompson with his first NHL goal?
I'm calling for a Thomas Chabot goal tomorrow, believe it or not.
Ooh.
And I think he's going to score in Anaheim. So I'm calling it. He's due. Plays 30 minutes a night. He's got to score at some point, doesn't he?
Well, he leads the team in shots. He's got... I wasn't done. Okay. Okay. You know what, Alex? That is Meth-stradamus for today. We'll look to see if he can come back at another time. I know he's very busy. No, you can't take it off yet. We're not done. You can. All right.
Look, I'm taking it
Alex,
off.
hit it again.
Can't even hear anything.
There we go. Your hair didn't even move. That's solid.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Okay.
what have you done?
We're okay.
All right, you froze there for a second, Matthew. Worried us. Oh, that's
I
from
can't
the
tell
Winter
what
Classic.
season this was from.
Or is it?
Was
That
that the
would've been
Winter
the Winter-
Classic?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
100th
100th.
logo there.
That's the logo.
Yeah, kind of cool. All right.
Did you wear that for
Well,
the
our
Winter Classic?
I must have. I've got a couple Sens hats floating around, or Sens hats, Sens helmets. Oh, wait a second. There you go.
Yeah,
Stick with Nick. Nicole
Okay,
Anderson.
so that would
Yes. Yeah.
that would have been 2017
Yeah.
then, probably, right? 2016,
Awesome.
2017.
So yeah, make sure that is available next time that Meth-stradamus shows up for the show. Okay.
You got it. Staying on the table, brother.
By the way, you know what, Matt? I got a question. So you didn't start paying for, you didn't have to pay for sticks after junior, right? But when you broke your first stick playing, do you remember, like when you were a kid?
It's funny you mentioned that. My dad would always buy these like extra stiff Canadian Tire hockey sticks, like those old wooden Kohos. So they never broke. I think I still have a bunch. But then in junior, we started using the two pieces where you'd see all the players in the hallway with the blowtorch, heating up the glue on the blade that we would insert in the shaft. That was very common to snap your sticks in junior. But luckily I played in London. In London, they weren't chintzy when it came to the sticks. They were pretty good about it. So I never really felt too stressed. Maybe in junior A a little bit when I played for Canada.
So there is currently like a worldwide shortage on everything, it includes sticks. So my kid has never broken a stick in a game, and now he's 14. And on Saturday, he breaks his first stick. I think he blocked a shot. I'm like, okay, as always, we got two. We'll get you another stick. So I order it. It says it's going to be here on today. And then it goes, it's going to be December 6th. Last night, he broke another stick blocking a shot. Now he's down 2 twigs, no stick. No, I can't order the one he always plays with. And I didn't know if, like, did you always want the same stick when you played? So it's like $700 in sticks, and I haven't got him a stick yet.
I was just going to ask you guys, like, I don't know what the cost is because I have a stockpile still from playing. Like, is it still insane? Like, are we talking like $300 for like a good stick?
Yeah.
$330 is top of the line, but so that's, I'll go like, that's a CCM trigger 5, a trigger 2, which is 3 years ago, is $319. So it's not like the number, like it hasn't drastically changed. So it's just a crazy dollar amount right now for sticks, and even lower end sticks are $200.
There's no chance.
So
no chance I'm ever buying my kids sticks like that. No chance.
Matt, who was the worst like stick guy you played with? Whether they were like super meticulous, or some guys would only use a stick for a period. Like, did you ever play with any psychos like that?
Yeah. It's all the skilled guys, right? So like Daniel Alfredson, I think, went through. Eric Carlson went through lots. Mark Stone, I believe, he had a massive knob. Like it's this big, like softball knob on the top of the stick. I'm trying to think of more.
He didn't like to talk.
I
know this. Yeah, and people are going to take this out of context as always. And Meth is frozen in the perfect spot.
All right.
I can see that. What am I? That's embarrassing. Here, do I restart it or?
No,
it's.
I don't know why my connection gets so bad. See, I'm on this Wi-Fi with Rogers, and for whatever reason in the evenings, it gets brutal. Like, can you guys at least hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is gonna be a great podcast. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, maybe I cut the video out for now, and you guys can just hear me, or is that?
No, you'll be good. Hang in there.
Okay. All right.
Mark Stone never used to like to talk about how he worked with his stick and all the tape he put at the top of it. It was always interesting to me. Like he never wanted. He gave me one time to auction off, but he never liked to give away sticks because he got tired of the way people talked about them. Yeah.
Well, the biggest stick guy for sure, like no one rivals him, is Jason Spezza. Spez spent like I still have this picture of him in his shorts, with this like heat pack that he'd have strapped around his back, sitting there going through like a dozen sticks and getting them all ready. It was wild, and he's meticulous, and he can, he's got that feel, right? If anything was even remotely off, that stick was scrapped, grab another one. And he was a perfectionist. And yeah, some guys are just like that. And that's probably why they were very good offensively and I wasn't.
Danny Heatley would use a stick every period.
Yeah, I
did not go over
that's
well with the team budget.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, but if you're scoring 50 goals, I think you can get away with it, right? But if you're like
no, he gets away with it. But yeah, Alexei Yashin made me wait 3 hours one time while he worked on his sticks in the stick room for an interview, and he came out and goes, "Oh, sorry, I forgot." I was like, 3 hours, Alexei. Like, Jesus.
Was it a good interview?
That's awesome.
No, because so do you remember Alexei played? Well, and it was the year I think he was a Hart finalist. He had 94 points. You remember those like back in the day, Meth? I don't think did you ever do the bike interviews? You were done. You were much later.
I wasn't
right?
there
You never
yet.
had to do post game bike.
Yeah.
So we would go in and Alexei would have like 4 points, and we'd all have to jam around these bikes that were all in a row, and you'd go up to Alexei and he's just pumping away. He doesn't want to talk at all, right? And you're like, Alexei, yeah, like big night. You know what? A hat trick, whatever. Yeah, we got the 2 points. That's all that matters. I'm like, okay, thanks. I used to I never enjoyed going to, like, he was fine. He's a nice guy, whatever, but he wanted no part of any media or talking about anything.
Not an entertaining interview, right? Yeah.
No. Anyway, he's doing well for himself now over in Russia.
Yep.
By the way, speaking of different countries, have you guys seen the Olympic jerseys?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what though? I'll just say one thing. People like to shit on just about anything that goes online, right? So when you go to social media, and like a good example, perfect example, and actually I think it was Bobby Ryan that reached out to me the other day about MTV Cribs and with correlating to Ottawa. So people saw the Connor McDavid Cribs, right? And we all saw his house, beautiful home, floating around, and the amount of pigeons in the comments section that had something negative to say. I'm thinking like one guy was like, "Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't want to live in that house." Like my ass, you wouldn't want to live in that house. Are you kidding me? Like I want to live in that house. And so I think it's good to set the record straight here. No matter what you do, for the most part, when something new comes out, like the Seattle Kraken or the Vegas Golden Knights, you're gonna have a million people just shitting all over the brand new idea. The same applies to the Olympic jerseys. Well, I don't like the black one because, it doesn't look good with the red. And it's like, just shut up. They're nice. They look really nice and they're sharp. They're clean. Just shut up.
People don't like change. And so that's the big part of it, right? They want to see their old logos stay and remain the same. So of the USA Canada jerseys, do you like one more than the other?
Craig, you go ahead.
They're okay. I mean, they're Olympic jerseys, right? Everyone's just trying to make them weird and a little different. I like the old ones.
They try too hard.
To see some. Yeah, exactly. Everything gets a little. They just start to look like almost like roller hockey jerseys sometimes. Like there's just a little too much going on and some weird gradients and stuff. It's just like give me the like the old ones from the 70s and 80s, solid red. Leaf is white, covering like give me some throwbacks or something. I know they've done those in the past.
Yeah,
too.
no,
when they try and do these new designs, they're hit or miss, man.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like a lot of teams like to try and mess with like third jerseys and stuff. And sometimes you get the cool, everybody loves the Knights gold helmets, right? Like that was a weird idea, but it kind of works. But then you get like those New Jersey Devil jerseys, which are like not good.
Now, so you don't like them?
No. What does that have to do with it?
I don't mind it.
See, I like them. But again, it's completely subjective, right? So I'm not right. No one's right or wrong. It just comes down to personal taste. The only point I was trying to make when I went on the rant there was it was simple. It's that it's trendy to be negative on Twitter because people are rewarded for that. It creates discourse, it creates conversation, and it gets clicks. Like you see news people do it, right? They know they're throwing out some bonehead headline, but it's going to create conversation. It's not bland. So I get it, but I think people can be a little too hard at times. And again, like the jerseys are fine. They weren't too wild or outlandish. They're just the different color schemes. That's all.
They just changed them every year so they can sell
the
more.
Headlines.
Right? Sorry, going back to jerseys.
Yeah, that's the only reason they do it.
If they kept a really good one all the time, you wouldn't need to buy one every Olympics, right? So, hey, let's mix it up and try something different. So, it is.
Oh, we've got a guest, Craig.
Yeah,
he's been Who's the good boy?
He's been up and down. He's here. Hello. Can you come here?
Is Baxter here? Oh.
Come on.
All right.
Bring this down a little bit.
This show's
I just noticed that. I just noticed that hoodie, Craig. Is that an easy? Is that easy ear or cube?
No, it's Ice Cube.
It's cube, yeah.
Yeah. All right, beat it, you. We're busy.
Leave Baxter. Baxter can stay.
Here. You know what?
Can he talk?
He knows it's. The thing is, he's bugging me because he wants his dinner. I think he's hungry. He's not used to these 5 o'clock.
Talk to Lisa.
Yet either, right? Yeah, exactly. You might be getting a similar dinner, I think, if you keep it up.
So here, I got a question for you guys. So if this team goes on a skid here, like they're already on a skid, but if they lose the next 2,
the last 9,
right. So if they win these, let me rephrase that. If they lose these next 2, which I mean, the games aren't looking great for them, then what? Like, is it just come back home and talk to the media and tell the media, we're trying, we're frustrated, but things are going to turn around? Like, how do you address that? And how do you deal with the fan base that's going to start to get more and more disgruntled moving forward?
Brent, you want to start this one?
Well, I think that they have a built-in excuse to last them 2-3 weeks, right? All the injuries, the COVID, they get to use that. Now, DJ Smith, to his credit, has not used any of the excuses, but the fan base gets
I like how DJ's handled it. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. But there's always they don't have Shane Pinto and Colin White, and they don't have, Holden or Brown. Sorry. I just think that they're now, the fans are just going to turn to, well, let's keep losing and we'll be send sickos again so we can now get Shane Wright, hopefully, in the draft. And that's what's going to happen for the next 3 or 4 months. And it's just, I can't get behind that. I never can.
Okay. So Craig, does that affect the fan base then as far as attendance goes? Like at what point is it just like, now we're going to start looking at 7,000 fans in the building?
Yeah, I mean, probably. The frustrating part is it looked like attendance was starting to take a jump there, right? Like that Pittsburgh game was pretty busy, right? Like, and I think the Calgary one, it was starting to trend upwards. But I mean, it's because I think people like Brady was still coming back, right? Like you're still kind of getting a lot of those things. If they go on an extended skid here, I mean, people aren't going to want to fight the traffic in December and January to go see like the Columbuses and the New Jersey Devils, and right, like you'll probably still sell out the Toronto games and Montreal and stuff, but it's going to be a battle to even for a skilled team like Florida that's going to come in, or Carolina. Like you're going to have trouble getting people to go to those games if they think there's no chance they're going to win. Like I think right now I don't know if they've lost it yet. Like you mentioned apathy. I don't know if we're there yet. I think people are still pissed off, which is like, that's good. If people are mad, at least they're still invested. I think it's when they start going like, when they go back to being a sicko, which is like, who cares? It's like, that's not good.
But so I do think they're going to see a little bit of a bump right at Christmas time, and as the kids are off on holidays and want to go to games or whatever, you're going to see the Bell tournament that happens every year. So you're going to see a bump there. But I would be shocked if there's a sellout this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? I don't see that happening either. For me, it's simple. It's just stringing together the odd couple wins here and there. Like we talked about this at the start when we coming out of training camp rather, where we know what the expectation level is with this group, right? Like we know it's not a Stanley Cup contender, not even necessarily a playoff contender. But I think the going conversation that I've had with a lot of people, a lot of media people especially, was this team just needs to be somewhat competitive. Like just stay in the mix, win some games where you're always fighting for a potential spot, at least till past February. And then you're in a good place and you're still going to bring people in because they're engaged. But my worry is when you're clear cut out of it by Christmas, that spells trouble.
Do they need to replace the general manager, which they just gave an extension to? Would that make a difference in ticket sales?
Does it though? So. Like I you know, and the question I always ask myself is how tied are Pierres' hands, right? Like, so yeah. We don't know enough. We're not there. We're not in the office. We don't know what is available to him. We don't know what he's allowed to go after and spend on. So it's easy to point the finger at Pierre, but like, you know, like at this point, there's always going to be those issues, right? And I think we always kind of dance around them. It's just they're in a tough spot, and until you can fill those big holes, and I'm talking those depth holes, like until you have a competent third, fourth line, competent third pairing, like we're just going to be spinning our tires talking about all these potential issues that aren't really existent because there's always the obvious ones.
Hold on. So we talk about Pierre's hands being tied. Well, he signed Matt Murray to a monster deal, right?
Yes.
He could have probably found someone. So we do have examples where he has been able to make some decisions.
For sure.
And I'm not sure that these are the right. We've talked about the pro scouting for a while. I'm not sure that this is the right path that they should be on and what I don't know what the evaluation is. It just makes it, I'm surprised of how often we see a veteran come in that is not the right fit or where we think they should be at in their game.
Yeah, and you talk about pro scouting. I'd like to think the pro scouting is pretty good because you guys, they went after me back in the day, right? So that says something. You know, that was a huge turnaround point for the organization. And I mean, really, probably the best pickup in the last decade, probably. So let's forget about that because I'm going to try to stay modest here.
We know another white
scouting. The scouting, this guys got to remember the scouting. There's not a big scouting staff here. Like these guys get worked to the bone with the amount of travel they have to do. And I know some of those guys, like they're legitimate guys. I don't like the Matt Murray pickup, but at the time when they went after him, it wasn't a terrible pickup, right? Like we thought, okay, the same happened with Dadonov, where we pick up Dadonov. The guy was a stud in Florida. Granted, he was playing with Huberdeau and Barkov, but you know, some of the pickups were good, legitimate players at that time. Murray, you could make an argument, right, that he was trending down.
I would make an argument.
I don't have the numbers in front.
I would argue Dadonov. I know someone who knows Dadonov and the organization and sent me a text like he'll never play defense and he's got Barkov on his line. Watch what happens when he doesn't have that available to him. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened in Ottawa. Completely lost.
Fair point. Yeah. So there you go. And I can say this. The team is going to look significantly different in 2 years. The problem is right now, you know, that short-term damage you're doing with the fan base or with ticket sales, whatever your priorities are. But we know with the emerging players that are coming up with the current group and core that we have, this group's going to look awesome. But all that matters is the present, right? Well, some of these guys are legitimate. Like if you have, first of all, JBD's going to, the more grouping JBD gets now in the American League, he's going to be coming up. Then you have Sanderson who's coming in. That's going to fill in a top 4, maybe 4.5. I say 4.5 with the bottom pair, at least one of them. You're going to have at least 5 pretty good D-men on this team. You're right, though. There's absolutely no guarantee. And we can only make these predictions. Some of them are wild. There, you got the board up now. And Lassie Thompson, another guy I just forgot. Like, you're going to have a really good decor. This decor has been the issue on this team now for the last couple seasons. I feel like it's going to be the team's strength in about 2 seasons, 3 years from now. But again, so that's a long time ahead. I know.
Let me just be devil's advocate, and I'm not saying that these guys aren't going to pan out, but you don't know if Jacob Bernard Docker is going to come in and play 20 minutes or 24 minutes a night and be what we think he's. You don't know it yet. You suspect that Jake Sanderson's going to be fine. You don't know that something doesn't happen where his knee gets messed up. Like, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. That's all I'm trying to say.
Sure.
So you continue to sell hope, but right? Like, we have no idea what this team is going to look like in 2 years, let alone, or even next year for that matter. Yes, they're projected to be good, but at some point, I think they still got to go out and make a move and make a decision to bring in not necessarily veterans, but just the right mix of individuals into that lineup. Because in a couple of years, you're going to say Brady Tkachuk's a veteran. You're going to say Thomas Chabot's now a veteran. So you're going to have, you could do Colin White, Connor Brown, Nick Paul, like all those guys. They now have the veterans in the lineup, but you got to make sure you got the right mix of players and talent surrounding. And that's all.
And they're missing Shane Pinto right now, right? Like he's out. Now, granted, I'm praying for him that this doesn't become a chronic issue, because I have played with players that have had some major shoulder issues and it lasts their whole career. And, you see them take a bad hit the next season when they're presumably healthy, and you think you're on the bench as a teammate and you're wincing. You're going like, oh, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen lots. So I'm hoping that he's going to be okay and that it bounces back properly. He's in good hands. But but not to deviate from the topic, I agree. And also not only Pinto, but Batherson. Like Drake's out right now too. Arguably their best player at the moment. So again,
no question.
More topics that, you can kind of use as deflection points when you're defending the current state of the group. But at the end of the day, people just want to see wins. They want to be proud of the team that they're supporting. They want to be able to put their Sens hat on when they're going to work or wherever and be proud of that logo. And that's something that the team's going to need to address. I mean, at some point, something's got to give, right?
Okay, last question I got on that topic is, it's the chicken or the egg. Is this team play poor defense or does it have poor goaltending? Which one is it, and what do they have to fix?
I can deflect. I can deflect right now and just say, Craig, can you handle this question? Goaltending has been a big issue. The decor has been a big issue. I think the decor is starting to settle. But now with Thompson coming in, there's going to be a lot of growing pains. There just will. If you're going to give him these tough assignments, playing on that top pairing, as good as he is right now, knowing that he's got a higher ceiling, there are going to be some growing pains there. And then, of course, the revolving door on the back end with the bottom two pairings. Now you've got Holden with Zub, and then you've got Mete with Zaitsev, and who's healthy, who's hurt. Like, that's not good for anybody. You want to see some familiarity with your partner. I've stressed that before. I'm not going to get into that. And then, of course, up front, I think you just got a little bit too much inconsistency on those bottom two lines. I like the makeup of them, but I feel like sometimes we start to fall in love with our players too much, and we realize how much depth we are, in fact, lacking when you look around the NHL, right? Like when you're looking at some of these other teams, that starts to put things into perspective for you, where you're like, oh boy, like maybe we weren't quite as good as we thought we were. And we're not near the point that we want to get to that we originally thought. So, injuries, if we're healthy right now, I think we have a fighting chance, Wally. But I mean, there's just too much inconsistency throughout the lineup that it's hard to make a fair assessment.
Before the season, you guys each picked your Atlantic Division standings, right? We were doing some fun predictions and things. Both you guys had picked Ottawa to miss the playoffs, right? And that's okay. I think your standings are actually not that crazy. Like Brent, I think you had Florida leading, which is I think Alex.
Oh, no question.
Too. Yeah. So anyways, these were your predictions. We don't have to get into them, but both you guys had Ottawa missing the playoffs. And this was all again done before the season, and I think everybody was pretty optimistic, and there was the fans were really optimistic, and the team was selling optimism. Did they maybe mishandle the communications on that stuff? Like, did they lead people to believe that maybe this team is going to be better than they were, and now they're paying the price for that? Yeah,
but that's the problem, right? You have to sell hope to get people to buy in and buy tickets and saying, hey, we're going to be great. The rebuild's done. We're going to push for a playoff. They have to do that. Otherwise, people are like, okay, well, we'll wait till next year to buy our season tickets.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm with you on that. I think this is commonplace with every team in the NHL. Like if you're paying attention to Detroit in
Vancouver.
the summertime, you're Vancouver, like people, like you go to camp as a player, you're given this booklet, and it's got all the systems, half the shit you don't read, but it's there in case you want it. They put a lot of work into it. And then all of a sudden you're having these meetings with your coaching staff. The GM comes down, gives you a rah-rah speech before camp starts, and they'll talk to you about how the best players are going to play, and we're going to reward the guys that come out strong. And half of it, they're full of shit. It's not ever the case. And then, of course, the media is pumping out feel-good stories, and so-and-so has made good strides. So-and-so has put on 10 pounds this summer. This is very normal, and it happens around the NHL every year. And then, of course, the real regular season begins, and there's no more BSing, right? Everybody falls in line, and you are what you are. The Ottawa Senators right now are what they are. That's not going to change. So, I could dump on them all I want, but it's disingenuous to be negative too much because, I mean, at least as far as I'm concerned, I knew what the expectation level was. I knew what this group was going to be like. I mean, we just saw the board. I didn't have them making the playoffs. I had them down there with Detroit and Buffalo in that range. And, Detroit obviously is playing pretty good, but having said all of that, you have to know what the team is and you have to have a fair expectation level. And, I know it's frustrating to see them lose some games, and you certainly don't want to see them on a losing streak. You'd like to see them at least go back and forth, be competitive, be in the mix. I still think there's potential there if these guys can get healthy. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. You brought up
and we'll leave it
Shane
at that,
Pinto.
Then.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to touch one. Sorry, Brent, before I cut you off. I wanted to touch on one thing real quick, and then we can wrap it up here. You brought up Shane
Wally
Pinto.
has a grilled cheese to go eat here, so we're going to have to wrap it up soon.
I'm worried about Baxter, okay? Baxter needs to eat.
He's fine.
All good. Sorry, Craig.
You brought up Shane Pinto,
brother.
And you mentioned the shoulders and how that could be a chronic issue. Not can he play again this year? Do you think he should? Do you think it's in their interest to bring him back? I mean, the season could be done by Christmas here. Is it worth pushing it, or do you just kind of? I know sometimes they'll do that where a guy will come back and maybe play a couple of games at the end of the year, and it's more so to just show progression or whatever else. Do you think it's worth the risk?
What did they give him? How long is he out for? Is it 4 to 6 months? Is that what the announcement was after surgery?
I think so. Yeah.
Am I off base?
Yeah.
I'm just guessing
No, I
because
think
it's a shoulder surgery.
I think it's one of those where like it's tentative. Like he could, in theory, near the end of the year potentially. That's kind of what I remember.
What he has going for him is that he's young, and what a lot of people don't understand, shoulder surgeries. I mean, I've sprained I've got like these big bumps on my shoulders. Like I've sprained my AC joints multiple times when I played, especially when I was younger, and the rehab sucks. You got to get on these arm bikes just to loosen it up, and you go through so much pain and all these band exercises, and luckily for him, they've got an excellent medical staff in Ottawa. So like Dom Nicoletta is a wizard. Jerry's very good, talented as well. They've got some very good people there. Sean Markwick will be doing the massage work on him. So he's in good hands and he's young. That's good. The bounce back is significant when you're a younger player. You just heal up quicker, quite frankly. So do I think he should come back? Yeah. I mean, if he passes all the tests and there's still, a month and a half left in the season, I don't see why not, right? Because he's going to be up to speed. He's still going to be conditioning. He's still going to be skating. By the way, that is also a nightmare because he's not going to be able to handle pucks. He's going to have to do all these bag skating drills when the team's on the road. He's going to be at the CTC. He's going to be skating alone, and he's going to be working hard and not handling pucks or shooting on the goaltenders. That's tough. But just to wrap that point up, I think he should play if there's enough time left. But if you're talking about, well, there's still a little pain and there's 3 weeks left in the season, obviously you should sit. But I think having the opportunity to get some reps back in and get your confidence back is important.
Brent, what do you think?
I don't know. It reminds me of Christian.
We're not
Wolander,
doctors
right? He
either,
fought
right?
so hard.
No. Yeah, we're speculating.
I just play one on TV. Is Lannon, right? Fought so hard. There was a couple of guys I can remember in the recent, and I can't remember their names now.
Chris Weidman.
Which ones, but
Chris
guys
Weidman
just fought.
with his...
Yes, the last couple of games, right? They just want to play at the very end of the year. So it's a huge thing for them mentally to do that. I'm okay with that. As long as it's, you know what, if Jerry says and the Doc Chow and all those guys go, yep, go ahead.
Or,
I'd rather see him actually play than not.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is an outlandish take. My last shift as a Columbus Blue Jacket, I took a puck to the face and it broke my jaw in 2 places. Displaced jaw against Dallas, oddly enough. And I rehabbed. I was wired shut for the rest of the year. I feel like they wanted me to come back at some point, but I was literally wired shut for 2 months. And then, of course, the summer rolled around and I got shipped out. So I'm hoping for Shane Pinto that they're going to have a little more patience with him and that he sticks around and that all will be well.
On that note, it is past your dinner time, Meth, because you're usually at the 5:30 table. So we don't want to stay longer than we Oh, you know what? I might need some.
Nope.
We need a pizza sponsor. All right. It's been good. I always enjoy these chats. We'll do it again soon. Everybody, thanks for being in the chat. We appreciate all that. To our sponsors, BEI, Sports Interaction, Gong Show, and Whitewater. Thanks to all them. We will see you Monday, I think. I don't even know what day it's. Thursday. We'll see you on Monday.
Enjoy the weekend.
See you guys.